am I exempt from ELDs? This is FMCSA Compliance Q&A from Acrisure Truck Group. Take it away, Mark.
Next, we're going to get into who is eligible to use a time card or the paper record of duty status. It's basically in those situations where the driver is not subject to the absolute ELD requirements, meaning if they're not subject to a record of duty status that's required to be made for more than 8 days in a 30 consecutive day period, they can be exempt from the ELD. So in lieu of the ELD, they're using another method. That is that paper logbook, do it, or an automatic onboard recording device. Or there's other exemptions such as the short haul provision. The short haul provision will cover. That means that driver has certain time parameters to get back, end their day and get back to the normal work point location. And in those cases, all they need is a time card, showing the time they start and the end, the total number of hours they're on duty that day. And there's some drivers, depending on what they're into, such as the agricultural commodity exemption, where they don't even have to have any hours of service if they stay within the parameters of the agricultural commodity. They're not subject to any hours of service for those. That's a rather rare and unique situation. So we're going to go into those options of when a motor carrier may require the drivers to record the record of duty status manually rather than having that mandatory ELD. I mentioned one already, and that is not required to have a record of duty status more than 8 days in a 30 consecutive day period. Cover that one. There's some situations and for driveway towaway operations. And then number 4 is probably the most popular one. And that is if the vehicle was manufactured before model year 2000, as they say, as reflected by the VIN number, or the engine year is before 2000. And that actually is looked on by the serial number identification of the engine. That would be a parameter for the engine, is that the engines aren't designed with ECMs to communicate with the ELD technology. So they're exempt. That's kind of a large reason why you see a lot of glider kits and refurbished older trucks of drivers or owners that didn't wish to be subject to ELD rule. They kept the older trucks on the road to maintain that exemption. This is what I talked about previously, a short haul operation. This is really common with motor carrier operations that stay local. They could also involve construction companies. And they deal with what's called the 150 air mile radius exemption. So be aware that 150 air miles is actually equivalent to 172 statute miles. It's actually 172.6. So 150 air miles is how an airplane flies. So there's actually a lot more room when you're on the roadway to get to 172 and meet that requirement. So if you operate within 150 air miles of their normal work reported location, they get back and return from work within 14 hours. They get 10 hours off in between. And that whoever employs this driver keeps those time records that shows when the driver starts each day, hours they're on duty each day, when they ended their day, and then they keep that for at least 6 months. They are able to utilize the 150 air mile radius exemption and really run just strictly on a time card. There's no requirement to carry this time card with them in their vehicle. It can be at the carrier's principal place of business. If asked by a roadside officer, they can certainly have it faxed to them, emailed to them, if there ever was a question of the driver's hours of service. The other beauty of running under short haul operations from being exempt from ELD and other time records other than time card is that you also are not subject to the 30-minute rest break requirement. So no 30-minute rest break requirement for those short haul operations. Now, what I want to say is that even though you're a short haul operation, they're not exempt from the hours of service overall, meaning the 11 and 14 hour rule or the 60 or 70 hour work rule, which we'll talk about that in a few moments. This kind of gives you an example for where I am today in New Berlin, Wisconsin. From this particular point, this is a 150 air mile radius exemption. And this does take in consideration the full 172. It covers a large area. And as a motor carrier, if I don't have to equip my trucks with ELDs and maintain them to the technical specifications or have the expense of them or the monthly maintenance of those, this can be a huge savings. So it definitely has the benefit for those operations that are local. So this would now apply to short haul operations for those drivers in a non-CDL vehicle. The first one is ever required a CDL. So that's the big trucks, 26,001 pounds or more. or hauling placardable quantities of HM or a combination for 26,001. So thinking of the smaller trucks here again, a pickup truck, box truck, 10,001, but not over 26. They have a short haul also, which is far more generous than the CDL ones. In here, it's still the same 150 mile radius from the normal work point location. And then again, they have to always return to their normal work point location at the end of the day when they can't be doing overnights. So they have to return at the end of each tour every day. And then they give some additional time that they have the ability to extend their 14-hour driving window to 16 hours on 2 days in a 7 consecutive day period, or after a 34-hour reset. So they have the ability to go past the 14th hour, unlike the CDL vehicles under the short haul provision. Again, what is the requirement if you want to utilize this? Is that they keep those same time records for 6 months, showing the time they start, the number of hours they're on due that day, and when they end. And again, with this, reminder that even though they meet the short haul exemption for these smaller commercial motor vehicles that are not CDL required, they are still not exempt from the hours of service. They will have to still comply with those, but following this rule will be difficult except for long days for them to fall into a violation situation.